My name is Mark Osborne. I'm a filmmaker and a fan of Laurence Ralph's film, The Torture Letters, and I'm very honored to be able to do this Q&A for the Spark Festival. And I guess I should start by saying congratulations on you're an award-winning filmmaker, and
Thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate the chance to speak with you. I thought the film was extraordinary, and I've been in animation now for quite some time, and yeah, like I think it's really incredible to find a film like this that is both the content of the film is as powerful as the context, the way in which it's told, and yeah, it's just it's powerful work and really amazing. So I just want to know, how did this all come about? I mean, I know you've been studying this subject for many years, but so yeah, tell me a little about it.
Yeah, thanks so much for that, and I really appreciate your insights about it. Well, the idea for the torture letters came about because I was writing a book on police torture in Chicago. That's also called The Torture Letters, and there's been a lot of activism around torture, and there's been basically a fight for decades just to be able to say, this actually happened. People were actually tortured in police custody. But alongside that, there was a lot of activism around how to tell the story itself. Mm. And when I talked to torture survivors, they really wanted the younger generation to know that this could potentially happen to them. Mm. And they fought very hard for a mandate in Chicago that the history of torture will be taught in Chicago public schools. And so that's really where the idea of animation came in for me, because I was thinking about all this research that I was doing, but how would I convey that to a teenager? How would I tell them the story of torture? And so the first thing I did was interview teenagers and talk to them about their own experiences of police violence, and how they kind of lived with this history of police torture, even if they didn't know all the details of it. And along those lines, I started to think very carefully about how to convey this emotions that I was experiencing, that I was getting from them, and how to really legitimize their experience. And part of what I wanted to make them see is that they're not alone, and that other people have gone through the same things that they may be going through. And I knew they wouldn't necessarily read my book, but if I could present it to them in another way, then they may be able to, get those lessons. And so I started thinking about animation, and that's where the idea came from.
How long ago was that? Like, how long ago did you start thinking about animation?
Well, I started thinking about it about 2 years ago when I started doing the interviews with the youth in Chicago. Mm. And then about a year ago, I got in contact with an animator, and Josie Juritz, and then began talking about these ideas, and began sending her some recordings of what I wanted to say to different people in Chicago about this torture scandal.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's like I said, it's a really great marriage because I think clearly it comes from a very clearly you've done the research, but you've also it's your own experience that is part of the story. And I just heard an amazing talk by Malcolm Gladwell that he was doing at a program called Unity for Humanity. And he did this great talk, and he said how important it is for us to tell stories and not just. He's like, no minds ever get changed with an argument, but by telling stories, we can actually get people to understand things better, or at least help people understand things that maybe they can't experience. And so, yeah, I feel like the film it really affected me the first time I saw it. I watched it again, and I think on the second viewing, I was just amazed at how animation is being used as a way to sort of bring what is a very difficult subject matter into sort of something that you can really feel and really get a powerful experience from. So what was the inspiration for the actual look or the way it moves or the style of it? Because it's really, I think, beautifully done and really interesting.
Yeah, thank you for that. Well, just on the point about kind of me bringing my own story into it, I think that's an important observation, because when I was talking to young people in Chicago, the first thing they said to me when I asked them about their experience, they said, "No, what's your experience?" And they wanted to hear the first time I was racially profiled or had encounters with the police that were negative. And so they wouldn't divulge to me, they wouldn't be vulnerable unless I was vulnerable to them first.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really important, because I think it matters who I was mattered to them, and trusting me with their story, right? And I think that was an important part of it, and that's why I wanted to include that aspect of it in the film itself, because there's a kind of shared sense of endangerment that was necessary to talk about in order to talk about torture. And so the look and the feel and the movement really comes from thinking about how to convey violence and how to convey torture. And I spent a lot of time thinking about that. And really it came up, it had to do with the difficulty in writing about torture, because there's a way in which if you don't say enough, you sanitize it, and it becomes sterile and dispassionate. But if you say too much, it becomes voyeuristic. So I realized very quickly that there was something that I couldn't get at by writing about torture. I had to kind of find a new medium. And so when I came to animation, it was about the abstract nature of the emotion, and how different emotions bleed into each other, and how your experience can bleed into an emotion, and that can be, again, shared with other people. And so my inspiration that I talked to with Josie Jurts, the animator, was Jacob Lawrence. He's one of my favorite artists. And just the way that the kind of cubism allows different shapes and forms to blend and morph and transition into different things. That's something that I really wanted to capture in the film, just how, there's something about police violence that it can escalate very quickly. It can change into something life-threatening in the blink of an eye. And so I wanted to kind of capture that with the different transitions through the art form.
Mm. It's really just so well done. And just, I mean, and I think, you get a sense of that sort of things are fracturing and constantly changing and morphing. And it sort of, I guess I got a real sense of how, it's almost like a post-traumatic stress relationship with remembering an event or talking about an event. And going back for a second, when you talked about interviewing the teenagers and you were having to share your own story, how was that? I mean, I'm assuming that was difficult and even difficult in conducting those interviews. And what was that experience like for you and for them as well? Even though you kind of touched on a little bit of they needed to hear your story first, and you had to create kind of a safe environment. But how did it go from there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it really, when I came up with this project, about torture, it tests the limits of writing, but it also tests the limits of myself as a researcher, right? And there's a way in which how I was trained as an anthropologist is to be objective, is to almost have a distinction between yourself and your subjects or the research subjects. Right. And you are the carrier of knowledge, and you're just interpreting their own experiences, right? And that really broke down through the process of talking about this. And I had to realize that that's okay for it to break down. And there's nothing wrong with that breakdown. In fact, there's something wrong with this notion of objectivity. If I can be doing a project about a historic injustice where hundreds of people were tortured, and if I can't say that that's wrong, that there's something wrong with the law, then there's a problem there, right? Right. And so I had to kind of let go of that training and say, like, what if I come at this through a notion of kind of investment in a problem that people are already trying to grapple with? Like, how can I just help and help people understand the nature of that problem, help people understand the pervasiveness of the problem? How can I use my training in a different way? Right. And that just opened up a different set of questions for me. And along those lines where, maybe a book is not the best way, or then it was like, maybe a book is not the only way. Like, what are other things that I can use to kind of get this message out there, to convey these experiences, to validate these emotions, and to say that, this isn't right, and this is a problem with the law that still exists, and we need to change that. And so, that was the kind of process for me in going through that.
So it's caused an evolution for you in not only your writing, but your career and the way you think about what you were trained. I mean, that's fascinating. And to think that I just, as a filmmaker, I mean, I've been wanting to figure out how to tell stories. I feel like I'm always learning and trying to figure out how to do that. I don't really know how it works. And I think it's amazing that you have come at filmmaking as a really sincere way to communicate. And I think as a sincere way to communicate ideas that were, vitally important to society and to you and to your subjects. And I think that's what's so remarkable. And I really hope that you get as broad an audience, or an even broader audience than you maybe expected. How's it playing in high schools? And your intention was to reach high school students. How is that? Are you getting feedback about that?
Yeah, I'm getting a little feedback. I mean, I think it's, when I started this project and started this film, the events of the summer hadn't happened. The George Floyd, Breonna Taylor hadn't happened, and um, it's really it's really a new world
Yeah.
in the sense that some conversations that I didn't think were possible and I didn't think that people wanted to have are possible now.
Mm.
And not only that, that people have the vocabulary to be able to talk about these issues.
Yeah.
And so for me, the film is important because it's just another way to reach people with the message. And I think the reception, has been good in this moment because people are trying to engage in this
Right.
moment. And the history of me doing research on policing hasn't always been, from a place where people are coming in good faith to try to wrestle with questions. It's been a lot of hostility. It's been a lot of contention.
Mm.
And so I think this, for me, is a new experience, and it's a good experience. And I'm so glad that I have the film to be able to engage, because it's just another a way to tell the story and tell the story in a powerful way from a vantage point that's not always articulated.
Well, like you said, yeah, I mean, I guess that's the frustration. You've written this book, which I now like. I'm no Jinko just got the book, and I want to read it too because I feel like it's something that I really want to. Or I hope you make more short films because, like, I know that there's so much more to this research that I think I'm sort of hoping to learn from, and. But I think, yeah, it's interesting to hear you say, like, not everybody's going to read the book. And I think that's what's powerful about short films in particular, especially in this day and age. Like, I feel like short films are, I started by making short films. I started by, as a way to, experiment on a smaller scale, storytelling. And so I find that, I feel like it's a great way to, maybe even, I saw a quote actually that you said this film is meant for everyone who has felt alone and violated after being subjected to police violence. It's also for anyone who has wept over the memory of a victim or taken to the streets in protest. And I thought that was a really powerful, intention for what you were creating. But I guess, hopefully now it's also sort of going to find other audiences, like you're saying, like the conversation is now becoming more open and maybe those that aren't as directly affected are going to be able to see this film and start to have a bit of a bit more of a openness to sort of learn and to listen to things that may not have personally affected them. Like, I've never had to deal with police brutality in my life, and I understand that, and it's that's what I think is so fascinating about the film, where it helps me to understand what I don't understand about it, yeah. and to see it in a new light. So, are there going to be more? Are you going to do more with animation? Are you going to do more of your letters? Like, where does this go for you?
Yeah, I definitely want to do more with animation, both more with short film and more with animation. And I think, what you said about short films is really important, because I think, we're living in a day and age where, there's an assault against, science and social science. There's an assault against facts. There's an assault against, the study of race. And we're also competing for the attention of our young generation, who, just the amount of things to gather attention is so different now. And, we have to find ways to engage with people and meet them where they are. and be able to easily translate, for me, social problems through storytelling in a way that is accessible. And so that, like, the temporality of it is important. Just short films that people can look at, in one sitting, really quickly while they're on their way somewhere, on their phone. Maybe they'll think and reflect. But I also want to do more just with animation in general, because I think that it's just so powerful for me. I mean, I think as a storyteller, I'm very attuned to emotion, and as an anthropologist, I am kind of, my main thing is empathy, and trying to get people to see, like, human connections, and that can be hard to convey through words. And I think that, animation for me is a powerful medium in getting at empathy and getting at human connection, and getting about how problems that we may think are different or affect someone else really actually affect us all in different ways, right?
Yeah.
And so I really want to do more in this space.
I do. I've always felt, like animation has this ability to just kind of sneak up on you too. Like it can, and I think there's a way that it works like a magic trick, or like there's some kind of alchemy. And I think you've really struck like an interesting balance, like you were describing, trying to tell the stories, present the information, but get to the emotion, which is really the key to, I think, all good storytelling is how much it can be evocative and create that emotional experience. And whenever I'm looking at shorts or judging shorts, or like, I always, that's the thing, is like, do I feel something? I don't care how fancy it looks, and but if I feel something, and I certainly felt something, and I'm certainly in awe of what you were able to do. And when Jinko first mentioned it and said I had to see this, and once I started to look more into your background, and it made perfect sense, because clearly there was a lot of work that went into this, and it wasn't just the amount of work that went into the animation. That there's clearly a lot of work that went into the entirety of it. Your whole career of study, so I think that was just amazing to see that distilled. Was it hard to choose the letters you chose to distill it down to try to contain it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a real challenge. But I think there's a thing about letters that help you in that regard, because letters are always to someone, and you have to, like, state your intention really quickly. Mm-hmm. And you have to, let them know what you need them to know. And so, like, out of everything that I could say, once, I think one of the challenges is just identifying who I wanted to address. And once I identified who I wanted to address and why, you can distill a lot of information pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. And again, that comes from just talking to people and, asking them, who do you want to know about? Who do you want to know what happened to you? Like, is it a politician? Is it other victims? Is it, the next generation? Like, who is it that needs to know about it? And so there's also a sense of urgency that kind of emerges from it. And so that really helped with the distilling things. And again, I think there's always the subtext of, like, voyeurism when we're thinking about this police violence, because we're inundated with these viral scenes now of people, being killed. And it's hard to know, like, how many videos is enough. It's like there's a fatigue that sets in, and, in our real lives. But when we think about what exactly do we need to convey in each instance, then, we can kind of streamline the nature of the story, and, just distill like essential details. And so that's what I was trying to do, throughout the film.
Yeah. A lot of times the visual ideas are carrying the weight, or sharing the weight. And there's, again, it bears repeated viewings because it's a lot to take in. But I think because the style of animation and the technique is so, it's engaging, it's almost mesmerizing. Like you described it as sort of surreal, I think, or maybe I'm paraphrasing, but about this way things are dreamlike and the transitions are, and I guess it just, it creates it definitely creates a feeling. But the fact that they're letters and that it's your voice too, like there's such an instant connection, an instant human connection that I think is, just powerful. So thank you for making this film, and for doing all this incredible research, and for creating something that I think it's gonna, I don't know how much it's been playing or how many festivals it's been at or how many awards it's won at this point. I just know that I think it's a highlight for the Spark Festival, and I look forward to seeing what happens next with it. And is it out there a lot, or is it just the beginning of its?
It's just the beginning of its kind of festival run, but it's getting quite a few acceptances. So, I'm excited about it, and I'm excited about people being able to see it now, and just being in conversation with different communities around the film, has been great. Mm-hmm. And just also learning just different things about animation through the process of like watching these other films, and there's conveying different things, telling different stories. I mean, I think that's been great too. So it's been a great experience.
Well, I'm sorry you're not going to actually probably go to many film festivals, but hopefully you'll have a good long festival life with this film, and I do think I'm sure it's going to be programmed by many festivals. And I meant to ask too, New York Times, when did they get involved, and what's that relationship like? Because I thought that was really cool that it's part of that the OpDoc series.
Yeah, that was a great thing. I mean, they got involved when it was almost done, and I was wrapping it up just in early summer when everything happened with these shootings and these killings, and then I approached the Times at that point to see if they were interested, because I wanted kind of a wide conversation, and there was a sense of urgency. It wasn't quite complete yet, but I wanted just to see if they were interested. So I showed them the first couple letters, and they were really excited about it. So we had to speed rush and finish it up, but it's been a great relationship and a great platform to have it on.
Will you do more with them, you think, or you don't know?
I hope so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I hope so too. I hope so too. And I look forward to seeing whatever else you do. And yeah, I'm going to share it, and it's out there. That's the great thing about the New York Times, that it's out there. There's a link and I can share it. And I hope everybody does share it when they see it. And I hope it'll, yeah, like you said, start conversations or continue conversations. And I hope, I know that you also said you felt, you know, and all the thinking that you did about who you were making the film for, you know, I hope that has been fulfilling for you as well. And I hope that, again, this just opens up conversations in ways that maybe you didn't expect. And hopefully this Spark Festival recognizing the film, I think is amazing. So I'm excited for you for that.
Yeah, thanks so much. I mean, I think it's just been a real journey with just studying police violence and studying police torture. Mm-hmm. And it's went from me thinking that no one would ever care about this, and me just being discouraged and, you know, thinking that it didn't matter if I finished the book or not, to finding animation and being re-inspired and, you know, kind of addressing some of the limitations that I was discouraged by in the first place. Mm. And it's been an amazing experience, this historical moment, because I feel like people are more receptive than ever. And I don't think it's an accident. I think that, you know, as the whole world, we've experienced a pandemic. We've seen how vulnerable we actually are. And I think there's an appetite to really understand that we're, again, connected to each other, and that our problems relate to each other, and we need to address these issues that we've been pushing aside. We need to really confront them and address them on a large scale. And so, you know, I feel like this film is part of that. It's adding to that. And it's just great to be included and be introduced and embraced by different communities. So that's great.
Well, welcome to animation. We're happy you're here, and I know I certainly am. And yeah, again, just really grateful, and look forward to seeing what other avenues you explore. And I don't know if you've thought about like VR or any, you know, extending that, you know, immersive emotional experience. I'm a big believer that, you know, any medium, especially newer mediums, are, you know, kind of good to explore sort of emotional experiences. So I'm kind of excited to see where you go next with your instincts about how to try to tell these stories or communicate these feelings. So yeah, if you ever need any help or anything, let me know. I'm a fan.
Okay, great. I'll definitely be in touch, and I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate this conversation.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks again, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
I guess they said we had a whole hour, but I'm sure you've got a lot going on. So
yeah. But, I think we covered a lot.
All right, but thank you. And yeah, look forward to speaking in the future. And
yeah, thanks so much, Mark. I appreciate it.
Are you in Princeton? I should have asked you this beginning.
Yeah, I'm in Princeton now.
Now you are, okay. Because my grandfather worked at Princeton, and I know the area. I spent a lot of time there. And
wow, yeah.
Yeah. So and his name was actually Ralph. So I was like, but he worked in the engineering lab, and he worked when Einstein was there, and he was actually yeah. So he was around in that time. So, but yeah. Well, great. We'll have a great day, and you know, yeah, look forward to what you do next.
Thanks. And I will take you up on that. I'll be in touch with some more ideas as I think through it.
I'm sure throughout the festival circuit, hopefully I'll see you again. I like being involved in, short films are a passion of mine. So I'll definitely be talking about your film. So hopefully, our paths will cross again soon. So.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thanks.
All right. Thanks
Bye.
so much. Take care.